Hello, learners. So, today, continuing with our sociological theories, we are going to deal about the feminist theory. Feminist theory brings gender to the forefront of sociology. It highlights how families reproduce inequalities and critiques patriarchy in both public and private spheres. This perspective examines how power operates in reproduction and family life, showing that what seems natural is often socially constructed. Different strands of feminism provide unique insights into inequality. The aim is just not to describe inequality, but to create pathways towards justice. This makes feminist theory both analytical and transformative, reshaping how we understand family roles. Feminism grew in waves, each shaped by its time. First wave started in late 19th century and continued till the early 20th century. It fought for voting rights, property rights, and basic legal equality for women. The second wave started from 1960s and continued till 1980s. It said the personal is political, targeting family roles, pay gaps, reproductive rights, and workplace discrimination. It questioned housework as women's duty and pushed for shared care and equal opportunities. The third wave started from 1990s till the year 2000s, added intersectionality, showing how gender joins with race, class, caste, sexuality, and nationality. It criticized Western only ideas and centered diverse voices and experiences. The fourth wave, which started in 2010s and is continuing till today, uses digital activism. Like online campaigns, you may have heard about the Me Too campaign to fight harassment, violence, and unequal power. Across waves, feminism asks who has power at home and work, who does unpaid care, and who controls bodies and choices. In families and reproduction, it pushes for equal inheritance, shared housework, consent, and safety, access to education and healthcare. These waves remind us that ideas evolve with society and that feminist society keeps updating how we study families, care, and justice. Liberal feminism emphasizes reforms within the existing system. It pushes for legal equality, access to education and employment, and reforms in marriage and divorce laws. The perspectives critiques explicit legal discrimination while promoting gradual step by step change. It believes that legal frameworks can drive equality if laws are fair and enforced properly. In families, this means advocating for equal decision making, shared domestic work, and families' fairness in rights. It is optimistic about progress without radical structure change. Liberal feminism applies strongly to family life. It promotes equal parenting roles and challenges the stereotype that women are natural caregivers. Household labor should be shared equally between men and women. Liberal feminists also advocate for reforms in divorce to ensure fairness for women. They frame marriage as a partnership rather than a hierarchy. These ideas aim to normalize equality at home, making it a foundation for equality in the society. Marxist feminism focuses on the intersection of capitalism and gender. It argues that women's oppression is tied to their role in unpaid domestic and reproductive labor, which sustains the capitalist economy. By keeping women's labor invisible, capitalism maintains inequality both at home and at work. Marxist feminists argue that true gender equality cannot be achieved without changing economic structures. They call for a transformation of how work, family, and reproduction are organized in the society. Marxist feminists say reproduction is not only about having babies, it includes daily care, cooking, cleaning, and keeping everyone ready for work or school. Most of the work is unpaid and is mostly done by women. So, business and the state save money while families cover the real costs. Because it is unpaid and done at home, this labor becomes invisible, even though the whole economy depends on it. When women spend many hours on housework and caregiving, they often have less time to paid jobs, study, or rest. This creates income gaps and keeps women economically dependent, which can limit their choices. Marxist feminists call this a political issue, not a private matter, because it shapes who has power and who gets paid. They argue we must recognize care as real work and count it in data, budgets, and policy. Practical changes include paid parental leave, affordable childcare, shorter working hours, living wages, and men sharing housework. Public services like community kitchens, elder care centers, and safe transport also reduce the burden on individual women. When society values and shares reproductive labor, families are fairer and the economy becomes more just and sustainable. Coming on to radical feminism. What does radical feminism say? Radical feminism says the main source of women's oppression is patriarchy, a system where men holds power over women. It argues that control happens through sexuality, reproduction, and family roles that expect women to serve and care first. Traditional family forms can protect male authority, making women dependent for money, safety, or status. This is not just about a few bad actors. It is a deep cultural system taught through media, schools, religion, and law. Changing a few rules is not enough. The whole deep culture around must change. Radical families question heteronormativity, the idea that only heterosexual male led females are normal. They call for new ways of living, equal partnership, shared housework, freedom from coercion, and respect for every person's choices. They also support bodily autonomy, the right to make decisions about one's own sexuality and reproduction. Safety is central, and gender based violence, harassment, and control in homes, schools, workplaces, and online spaces. The goal is liberation, where relationships are based on consent, equality, and care, not on domination. Radical feminists critique the family as an institution that legitimizes male power. They point to domestic violence, sexual abuse, and reproductive control as mechanisms of subordination. They critique heteronormativity as restricting women's freedom and advocate for alternative family forms such as communal living or chosen families. This analysis is powerful for uncovering hidden dynamics of power within homes and relationships. Socialist feminism says women are oppressed by two linked systems, capitalism and patriarchy. From Marxism, it takes the idea of economic exploitation. Women are paid less, crowded into low status jobs, and do huge amounts of unpaid care work that keeps the economy running. From radical feminism, it takes the idea of male domination, control over sexuality, reproduction, and household decision making. These systems reinforce each other. Low pay and unpaid care make women dependent, while Patriarchal norms say this dependence is natural. So, change must be both economic and cultural at the same time. Economic change means equal pay, living wages, strong unions, paid parental leave, and affordable children care. So, care is not a private burden. It also means public services like health, education, elder care, safe transport that reduce the unpaid work pushed into families. Cultural change means sharing housework, respecting bodily autonomy, ending gender based violence, and challenging stereotypes where men's work and women's work is different. Socialist feminists value intersectionality, class, race, caste, migration, disability, and sexuality, who is shape, who is most exposed to harm. Socialist feminists value intersectionality, class, race, caste, migration, disability, and sexuality shape who is most exposed to harm. They push to count care in data and budgets and to design taxes and benefits that redistribute time and money towards caregivers. They support workplace democracy, more voice for workers, and family democracy, equal say in money and major decisions. The goal in society where care is valued, power is shared, and everyone can thrive at home and at work. Feminist theories show that homework is divided by gender in many families. Women are expected to be the main caregivers, doing most children care, cooking, cleaning, and elderly care. This work is often unpaid and invisible, yet everyone depends on it. Women also do a lot of emotional labor, soothing feelings, planning birthdays, remembering appointments, keeping peace in the family, doing two loads, paid jobs plus homework. Is that double shift? Men often help less or only with tasks that are optional or visible, which keeps inequality going. These patterns start early through socialization, toys, course, and school messages about what boys and girls should do. They are reinforced at workplace rules like long hours, no flexibility, and pay gaps that make women time seem cheaper. The result is less rest, lower income, and slower careers for many women. Change at home means sharing tasks fairly, making a core list, rotate jobs, and use the whoever care decides rules. Reproductive labor means all the work that creates and cares for people. It includes pregnancy, childbirth, and breastfeeding, but also daily care like feeding, bathing, and teaching children. It covers elder care and support for sick or disabled family members. Reproductive labor also passes on language, manners, values, and culture, so children learn how to live in the society. Most of this work happens at home, is unpaid, and is often treated as natural, so people undervalue it. Because it is unpaid, the real cost of keeping society going is hidden and pushed onto families, usually women. This reduces women's time, income, and rest and can slow their careers. Feminists say this is not just private life, it is socially vital work that keeps schools, workplaces, and the economy going. They call for recognition, count it in data and budgets, teach its value, and respect caregivers. Some proper people propose wages for housework or care credits in pensions so years of care do not mean poverty later. Policies say paid parental leave, affordable children, elder care services, and flexible hours help share this work fairly. When we value and share reproductive labor, families are healthier, gender inequality shrinks, and society works better for everyone. Feminists challenge the traditional family as a neutral unit. Instead, they see it as a site where patriarchy is reproduced. Decision making is often unequal, with men holding gender authority. Children are socialized into gendered roles that limit women's futures. Violence and abuse further reveal the family as a political arena where power dynamics play out. This critique reshapes how we analyze and intervene in the family structures. Patriarchy is seen as a deep rooted system and structuring society. It manifests through control over women's bodies, economic exploitation, and political domination. Within families, patriarchy sustains an unequal power relations where men often make key decisions. Feminist analysis highlights how these inequalities are not accidental but systemic. Challenging patriarchy requires structural, cultural, and policy level changes that transform family dynamics. Domestic violence shows that home can be unsafe for many women. Abuse can be physical, sexual, psychological, or economic. It often includes coercive control, isolation, threats, surveillance, and constant monitoring. Violence is widely hidden because of stigma, fear of blame, dependence on income, and family pressure to keep quiet. Feminist scholars say this is systemic, not a few bad cases. Unequal power and patriarchal norms make control seem normal. Cultural ideas about obedient wives or family honor can excuse abuse and silence victims. Risk rises with poverty, job loss, alcohol or substance abuse, immigration stress, caste, race, bias, and weak services. So, there is normalization of domestic violence or intimate partner violence in the society. Abuse often follows a cycle. Tension builds, there is attack, and there is apology, honeymoon. Again, this cycle repeats. Tension again builds, again there is attack. Children who witness violence face trauma and may struggle in school or their relationships. Activism has won laws, hotlines, shelters, protection orders, and special courts, but many women still face barriers. Change needs education on consent and equality, men's engagement programs, safe housing, income support, and fast survivor created justice. Addressing domestic violence is central to feminist critiques or family power. Safety, autonomy, and dignity must come before the appearance of family harmony. Motherhood is celebrated yet also used to confine women. Cultural ideas demand self sacrifice, while women, as working mothers, face a double burden balancing jobs and children. Feminists debate whether motherhood is biologically destined or socially constructed. They emphasize the need for structural supports like maternity leave, flexible work, and childcare. These supports ensure women can mother without sacrificing independence and equality. Fatherhood has traditionally been tied to breadwinning with little expectation of caregiving. This reinforces women's domestic burden. However, modern families are slowly shifting norms. Feminists push for shared parenting where fathers actively participate in children's care and household work. This requires cultural change in masculinity norms, challenging the idea that caregiving is only a women's work. Greater involvement of fathers in childcare and household benefits both parents and the children. Feminists say marriage has often been built on patriarchal rules. Historically, husbands had legal and social power over wives' bodies, money, and movement. Marriage was used to control women's sexuality and secure inheritance through the male line. Many marriages expect women to do most of the household work and caregiving, even when they also have paid jobs. This creates economic dependence and limits women's choices and freedom. Cultural stories about good wives can justify unequal roles as natural or moral. Feminists call for equal partnership, shared decisions, shared earnings, and shared domestic work. They support bodily autonomy and the right to choose if, when, and how to have children. They also question one single right family form and define diverse families. Cohabiting partners, single parents, same sex couples, and chosen families. Some explore communal living or cooperative care to spread the load of children and housework. Laws matter. Equal inheritance, marital property rights, diverse protections, and safety from violence making these marriages fair. The basic goal is freedom and dignity. Relationships based on consent, equality, and care, not control. Work family balance is a central feminist concern. Women juggle paid jobs with unpaid domestic responsibilities, creating a double burden. Without supportive policies like childcare or flexible work, this leads to stress and ill health. Feminists highlight the need for gender sensitive workplace reforms. Achieving balance requires cultural shifts and policy support that recognize both paid and unpaid work as important and valuable. Reproductive rights are about control over one's body. They include access to contraception, safe abortion, and quality maternal health care. Without these rights, women and girls cannot plan education, work, or family life on their own terms. Feminists say bodily autonomy is a basic freedom. No one else should decide it or for them or when a person becomes pregnant. Barriers include cost, distance, stigma, bad laws, and misinformation. Where rights are restricted, unsafe procedures rise, and health risks and maternal deaths increase. Comprehensive sex education, consent education, and affordable health services help people make informed choices. Privacy and confidential care matter so people can seek help without fear. Reproductive justice adds that race, caste, class, age, migration status shape who actually get access to them. Legal battles and cultural debates vary by country, but the core issue is the same: who has power over the body? Allies like partners, families, teachers, health workers, and lawmakers can support by listening, respecting choices, and removing barriers. Protecting reproductive rights strengthens gender equality, health, and opportunity for everyone, for the whole society. Control over reproduction is central to feminist theory. Access to contraception and abortion determines women's ability to make choices about their bodies and lives. Feminists argue these rights are fundamental to autonomy, yet, cultural and religious forces often oppose them. Globally, access varies widely, with poorer women facing the greatest barriers. Advocacy for reproductive justice emphasizes not only legal rights but also economic and social access. Feminists critique healthcare systems for historically male centered. Women's health needs beyond reproductive roles were neglected. Research often excluded women, leading to biased outcomes. Feminists argue for comprehensive health care, including mental health, chronic illness, and sexual health. Gender sensitive training for providers is essential. Inclusive health systems are a feminist priority for equity. Policy and law have been shaped significantly by feminist struggles. Reforms include laws against domestic violence, maternity leave, and equal pay legislation. However, implementation often falls short, revealing gaps between law and practice. Feminists emphasize enforcement and continued advocacy. Policy reforms must adapt to new challenges like workplace harassment and intersectional discrimination. Global feminism says women's life differ across places, so one model does not fit all. Western feminism has often been ethnocentric, speaking of others and missing local histories and needs. Women in the global south link gender to colonial legacies, land loss, caste, race hierarchies, and unequal trade. Poverty, debt, and development policies can cut health, water, and care services that women depend upon. Migrant women often join global care chains, leaving their own families to care for richer families abroad. Conflicts, climatic shocks, and extractive projects push women into precarious work and unsafe migration routes. Transnational feminism builds solidarity across borders without savior attitudes. Listen first, support local leadership, and share resources fairly. It centers intersectionality. Gender interacts with caste, class, race, ethnicity, religion, disability, sexuality, and citizenship status. Digital tools help organize hotlines, hashtags, and apps, but surveillance and online abuse are real risks. Policy priorities include land and inheritance rights, decent work, safe migration, public childcare, and protection from gender based violence. Research should use local language and knowledge and measure what matters: unpaid care, time, access to water, safety, and income control. This global lens keeps feminism inclusive and relevant, linking everyday family life to world systems and shaping change that work where people live. Feminism in India began with social reform in the 19th century. Early reformers fought sati, child marriage, and pushed for widow remarriage and girls' education. After independence, women's group linked freedom at home with the new nation's rights and equality promises. Modern India feminism targets dowry violence, domestic abuse, sexual harassment, and unsafe public places. It also works for equal access to schooling, healthcare, nutrition, and decent work. A key feature is intersectionality. Caste, class, religion, tribe, disability, and region shape women's life very differently. Dalit, Adivasi, Muslim, and migrant women's voices have shown how caste and community bias deepen gender harm. Grassroots activism, self help groups, microcredit collectives, panchayat campaigns, and community kitchens have changed daily life. Law reforms matters. Acts on dowry, domestic violence, sexual assault, and workplace harassment came from long struggles. Laws reform matters. Acts on dowry, domestic violence, sexual assault, and workplace harassment came from long struggles. Courts and quotas opened space, but implementation gaps and police clinical barriers remain. Digital organizing helps accuse courts and quotas opened space, but implementation gaps and police clinic barriers remain. Digital organizing helps expose abuse and mobilize support, though online harassment is a new risk. Overall, Indian feminism is rooted in local cultures and social struggles, combining reform of laws with community level change to make life safer and fairer for all women. Feminist research methods challenge traditional claims of neutrality in science. They emphasize lived experiences and use qualitative tools like interviews and narratives. Objectivity is critiqued as making male perspectives. Participatory approaches involve women and co researchers. Ethics and reflexivity are central as researchers acknowledge their own position. These methods democratize knowledge production and highlight the marginalized voices. Feminism has faced critiques both from outside and within. Critique accuses of essentialism, assuming a universal women's experience. Early ways, neglected cases, class, and sexuality. Some argue it overemphasizes gender at the expense of other factors. Internal divisions between strands also complicate the movement. Intersectionality has been a major response, making feminism more inclusive and nuanced. Feminism today faces new challenges. Backlash from conservative politics seeks to roll back gains. Digital spaces have enabled new forms of gender based harassment. Economic crises disproportionately affect women in precarious jobs. Climate change, too, has gendered impacts, particularly in vulnerable regions. Feminists adapt their strategies to respond. Feminists adapt their strategies to respond to these contemporary threats, linking gender justice to broader global issues. The future of feminism lies in integration and innovation. Intersectionality ensures inclusivity. Global solidarity movements like struggles across borders, changing family forms like same sex parenting reshape debates. Technology raises new issues from reproductive technologies to digital work. Feminist theory must sustain activism while adapting to emerging realities. Its strength lies in its ability to evolve with the society. In conclusion, feminist theory has transformed how we study family and reproduction. It exposes hidden power relations and challenges naturalized gender roles. By highlighting different strands and incorporating critiques, feminism links theory with activism. It paves the way for more just and equal family structures. This lecture summarizes the richness of feminist perspectives and encourages students to apply them critically in their own analysis. Thank you, learners.